In today's show, how long should the executive summary be? What about the proposal?
So, in other words, does size matter?
Welcome to Bullet Points, the show that takes the mystery out of what makes proposals persuasive. I'm your host, ChrisSant. You get a group of people together who don't want to be there. You stuff them in a room and you don't let them out until they come to a decision. You throw all sorts of conflicting claims and evidence at them. Maybe there's some scientific or technical information that they don't really understand. Am I talking about a jury? Am I talking about a selection committee? Well, pretty obviously, I'm talking about both. Jury research tells us a great deal about how people make decisions about complex questions when they're in groups. So in the next few bullet points, we're going to talk about how the key findings of that research, as well as my own observations as a trial lawyer, help you win more. So let's get started with probably the most common question I get when training folks to improve their proposals. Any guess what it is? How long should it be? There are a lot of reasons why people want to know the answer to this question. For one thing, many proposal departments have gotten into the habit of copying and pasting anything that might potentially be even sort of slightly relevant into the proposal. You don't want to miss anything after all. In this case, people are usually asking about the proper length because they disagree with this practice.
Not in my house.
Other people, though, tend to be more focused on the executive summary and how long it should be. And I don't want to attribute any negative thoughts to people, but it's usually pretty clear that they would not be opposed to being told that the proper length of an executive summary is very, very short. The fact that they're the ones who have to write the executive summary and a very, very short one means a lot less work and a lot less effort and a lot less frustration. Well, that may or may not be related to their question.
Gee, he thought. I don't know.
As it turns out, jury research can give us the answer to both of these questions. Let's start with the proper length of an executive summary. A lot of people really want the proper length of an executive summary to be 1 page. The idea seems to be that they just want to very quickly hit the key points at a very high, meaning a very vague, level. Even a busy manager can read 1 page, right? Jury research says no. The executive summary is basically the equivalent of an opening statement in a trial. It's your chance to tell a cohesive story about what the evidence shows. It's also a chance to engage with your audience emotionally. In a criminal trial, the prosecutor may want to make the jury feel the fear of being this defendant's victim. The defense attorney will want the jury to feel the horror of locking up an innocent person or being locked up themselves for a crime they didn't commit. In the executive summary of a proposal, those emotions involve a few things. The distress and fear that people at the company do feel because of the problems the company is facing. The sense of joy and accomplishment they want to feel from achieving their goals. The confidence, trust, and safety they need to feel in the reason why your recommendation and only your recommendation will let them achieve what they want.
I'm choosing to feel safe.
Well, jury research shows that when the prosecutor, that's you, makes a short opening statement and the defense, that's your competitor's proposals, makes a long opening statement, the defense wins more often. When the prosecutor makes a long opening statement, remember that's you, and the defense makes a short one, the prosecutor wins more often. In other words, taking the time to begin with a complete and persuasive statement is more effective than whatever goodwill you might engender for making a very short statement. Of course, you don't want to include lots of extraneous stuff that isn't essential for the persuasive statement. To be persuasive, your message has to be focused. Distraction and boredom are the enemies of persuasion. You want to follow a structure that includes all persuasive elements and no wasteful ones. So there's a balancing act here. But one of the reasons you were hired is because of your good judgment. This is one of those times when you need to exercise it. Now, a one-page cover letter hitting the high points is a good idea. It still shouldn't be vague, but it's okay for it to be at a high level. Saying, for instance, as you'll see, the proprietary aspects of our proposal that make us faster if you're providing a service, or higher quality if you're providing a product, or more lawyer-y if you're a law firm. Those proprietary aspects deliver approximately $13 million in value to you. That's above and beyond the industry average. But this is because the goal of the cover letter and of the title is to intrigue them. The executive summary persuades them, and the body of the proposal substantiates everything. That being said, some people always want a rule of thumb. So here's the rule of thumb that I tend to give when I'm forced to. Your executive summary won't be bad if you keep it to 2 pages plus an additional page for every $30 to $40 million worth of value in the deal. This is simply an acknowledgement that a billion-dollar deal requires more time to make a persuasive statement than does a $10 million deal. More people will be involved, which requires thinking bigger and addressing a wider array of challenges and desired achievements. People's skepticism thresholds will be higher, so you'll need more evidence at each stage as you build your message. And what about the body of the proposal? This is the flip side of what we saw for the executive summary. People always want to make the executive summary too short, but they also want to make the body of the proposal too long. Just dump it all in there. Research shows that what jurors really hate is when you waste their time. That can't be a surprise, right? Well, let's hear what some real jurors have said in post-trial interviews. Always in the back of the attorney's mind, there should be this sense that you're arguing a case against time, because 14 people have effectively put their lives on hold to listen to it. So every part of the argument should be deemed essential to the case. Otherwise, you're wasting the juror's time. They also hate it when you're pointlessly repetitive and you say things again and again and you keep repeating yourself. You get the idea. So here's another juror. I thought the credentialing part done at the beginning of the expert witnesses was really long. It about killed us. It was like, enough already. We get that you're smart. Move on. They also hate it when the trial is drawn out for no reason. Here's a juror on how to do it right. The attorney was great. He gave us the facts and substantiated what we needed to know. He didn't waste our time and drag it out. Just like the folks on your selection committee, and you know this if you've ever served on a jury, most people want to do a good job. They want to come to the right decision. In fact, if you're not the kind of person who hangs around courtrooms, which is not really something I recommend you take up as a hobby, I can tell you that the most frequent question that jurors ask the judge after delivering their verdict is, did we get it right? They want to do a good job, but they also want to get it over with as soon as possible. Wouldn't you? Well, wouldn't you? They don't want their time to be wasted. even as a matter of desiring simple respect for their time, you can understand why. And you can see why they'll take it out on you if you don't. They feel insulted, disrespected, offended. This is not how you make friends and influence people. So, just as you should take the time to craft a complete persuasive executive summary, in the body, you should put in some thought as to whether this page of crap that you want to paste in from another proposal actually adds anything of value. And if it adds no value to the reader, cut it. Cut. Cut. If cutting and that other stuff makes you nervous, you should know this. Every time you cut something pointless from your proposal, an angel gets its wings. And you can always drop a footnote that says, if you're interested in this, we're happy to provide you with additional information, and let them follow up with the post-submission questions. Psst, they're not going to, because they don't care. So it's good you cut it. But if even that is too nerve-wracking for you, you should at least stuff anything that isn't part of a clear, crisp message into the appendix.
Appendix has been made redundant. It's like the MySpace of your digestive system.
But it's one thing to put all the right stuff in front of folks. It's another to get the message you want into their eye holes, where it will take up permanent residence in their brains. And in the next bullet points, we'll discuss exactly what determines whether that happens. Finally, a little bit of APMP news. The great folks organizing the APMP Bid and Proposal Con for next year in New Orleans had about 150 submissions. So the odds were against me being selected, and the odds against both of my submissions being selected were about 9-1. The odds against me having a glass of scotch to celebrate that they were both selected was, we'll never know, because I did have one and it was delicious, and I'm going to have the privilege of talking about two hugely important topics in New Orleans. First and foremost, an entire session on differentiation. Really, when it comes down to it, if you have no differentiation, you have no leverage at all. This is why an Accenture study showed that well-differentiated products had twice the profit margin as the industry in general. So that's going to be a really good one. And second, on content libraries. Imagine having more time to get your executive summaries just right. Doing a little extra digging so your proposal addresses all the critical issues. Or, I won't tell, just getting home to spend more time with the family or out on the golf course. All the while winning more, because a good content library forces you and your team to stay structured and focused, which, as we saw, are critical for persuasiveness. Anyway, as you can see, I'm very excited about these, but please, I would like your help. If you have any questions on these topics, let me know. I would love to incorporate your real-world concerns and challenges to make the talks as useful as possible. So please, send me an email or a message or a text or a carrier pigeon, or if you go to Hogwarts, send me an owl. I would be very grateful to you. Until next time, I wish you much success.